Welcome to today's session. As before, I would like that we just do our motivation for the session in silence a moment. And for the motivation that we do together, again, I would like to read these two verses. Please reflect on them as well. The one from the root verse of the Madyamakavatara about compassion, method side, and then the other one about the tenderizing emptiness, the wisdom side of the Lamachapa. Mercy alone is seen as the seed of a conqueror's rich harvest, as water for development, and as ripening in a state of long enjoyment. Therefore, at the start, I praise compassion. Samsara and Nirvana lack even an atom of true existence, while cause and effect and dependent arising are unfailing. I seek your blessings to discern the import of Nagarjuna's thought, which is that these two are complementary and not contradictory. Again, at the beginning, I would like to show you where we are in the text, the overview of the headlines. In the middle, again, a supplement to the middle way, the title of the text by Chandrakirti. Then we have the meaning of the title, that's the first main headline. And we were talking about the Madyamakavatara, the title. We were then also having the second headline, obeisance to the translator. And last time we were now coming to the meaning of the text. And here we talked about, on the left you can see the expression of worship. And as it looks like we will finish this whole part here, that is the expression of worship. That is mainly considering compassion, the differentiating its types, but also non-differentiating its types. Okay. And last time, you might remember, we were specifically looking at the three compassions that are differentiated by its types. And you can see on the yellow color here, the first compassion, we were distinguishing compassion, observing mere sentient beings. And this is a compassion that is qualified just by the three sufferings. Suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and the all-pervasive compounded suffering. We were talking about the 6 analogies given by the watermill example, and have seen how tightly sentient beings are bound to samsara, just in the same way as the buckets are bound to this watermill, turning and turning. Then we were talking about the second one, the B, the compassion, observing phenomena. And this is actually a compassion viewing sentient beings as momentarily disintegrating, like changing all the time, like a moon on rippling water, steered by a breeze. And I can maybe remember the picture here, the moon that is always changing when the water is rippled. And then the third compassion, see in the red color, It is the compassion observing the unobservable. And this is a compassion viewing sentient beings as empty of inherent existence. Like up here again, the example, the reflection of a moon in water that is appearing, but the moon is not there, it's not abiding on the water, but it appears. And this is concerned then to seeing the subtle selflessness of person. And in this context, Chandrakirti gave the example of this ocean and the river that is coming into the ocean, and how sentient beings here being in the river of the ocean through the conception of self of phenomena, the ignorance, they are constantly generating the view of the transitory collection, the I and mine, grasping at them, the conception of self of person. And like this, they are coming into the ocean of suffering again and again through these two wrong conceptions. Okay. Okay, before I actually come to this one, I go back one more. I would like to just make the summary of this section about all these compassion that we had in the last few sessions. So, in the introduction to the text that we're studying, Chandrakirti praises great compassion instead of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. With this, he indicates the importance of great compassion, not only for generating the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, or for the attainment of Buddhahood, but for all the realizations up to enlightenment. This includes all the realizations of hearers and solitary realizers. The Prasangika school is the only of the four schools that posits that there is no difference in the realization of the profound for all three vehicles, meaning the three vehicles, the Mahayana Bodhisattva vehicle, the hearer vehicle, and the solitary realized vehicle. These are the three vehicles. For all these three vehicles, the followers of them need to realize emptiness in order to achieve also their respective results. The practice that distinguishes the result of these three vehicles is the practice of great compassion. By praising great compassion, hearers and solitary realizers can become inspired to turn towards the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva path. And those who are not yet established in any vehicle may also turn towards the Mahayana Bodhisattva path. Great compassion is developed before entering the path, and it is constantly nourished while traveling the path up to Buddhahood. It is based on the mind of definite emergence, or sometimes we also say renunciation, in which one realizes that the suffering of cyclic existence is unbearable. And by extending this realization to all sentient beings, one generates great compassion. And then the experience of great compassion is further deepened by the realization of impermanence and emptiness. Okay. Now I would like to share a fact about 4 attributes that make a valid source, that the treatise is a valid source. And these 4 attributes, you can see them here on the mind map. They are now here they are connected to the supplement to see if it is really a valid source that we can follow, that we can trust. And some more will come about this soon. So the first attribute is the subject matter of a text. And in our context, it is the profound and the vast. And as we have seen, again, also in the picture at the beginning, it is needed that we practice both sides, that we have both wings to fly across the ocean, the profound side of emptiness and the vast method side of compassion. So this is fulfilled. Then the second attribute is the common or is the uncommon purpose. Actually, a word to remember, these four attributes, they are not just in our context valuable. They are used to validate any text that is used as a basis or a good text. So we can use them for all of them. It's a general standard to go through these four. Okay, the second one, that is, what is the uncommon purpose of a text? And in the supplement, in our text, it does supplement the fundamental wisdom with the vast and profound. We heard about this at the beginning. So this is also there. Then the third, here there are actually two in this case. There is the temporal essential purpose. And here it is to practice the meaning of the text from before a path until including the path of meditation. So that to get all the realizations of the four paths. That's the temporary essential purpose. And then the final essential purpose is actually then to attain the last path, the path of no more learning, the attainment of Buddhahood. Okay, and now the fourth point here is the relationship, and it refers to the relationship between the three former points. And see if they are correctly also related, if they make sense. And we can see the result that we had is up here, the attainment of Buddhahood, the 5 paths, all of them, depends on knowing the profound and vast and put it into practice. So it is, the result is dependent on the former two. And in this regard, the supplement to the middle way, this text, is a valid source. Okay. Just briefly again, this overview. Now we have finished the expression of worship here, the black one to the right, to the left, and we are in actual body of the text, where there is the main heading here, the causal ground. And you can see here on the left are the A and B, and A is the ways of practicing the path in this system, the system we are in general, and B is the ways of practicing on the level of common beings in particular. Okay. And here is the next mind map. I will use. It's here now about the ways of practicing the path of this system in general. Here in the middle, to the right here actually, with the blue color. And I go here to make a jump to Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna, in 3 of his books, in the Compendium of Sutra, Praise of the Element of Quality, and the Precious Garland, he explains the 6 perfections, their definition, their benefits, and also compassion. And how he explains it, all the other great masters of the time, like Shantideva, Chandrakirti, Aryadeva, Shantarakshita, Bhavaviveka, Kamalashila, Atisha, they all agree with how he put it in. Okay, but now again, the question for us arises how to practice according to Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and so on. That's the question. And means actually how to practice according the Prasangika system. That will come again and again. And then why to not follow wrong path? And how are we going to do this? And for this reason, we were talking about the 4 attributes of a valid source. That it has to have these 4 attributes, but there's also more. And how are we finding out how we get a conviction, like a deep conviction out of understanding of valid reason? And first of all, again, through hearing, listening, reflecting, thinking, and so on. Just being contemplating about what we hear and check it out. Always again, check out if it is really like this in our own experience. And now about this having conviction. I go to this side here and take this lower part first. How we get a correct sign of conviction here, this, and there's a threefold analysis for us to have this, to get a correct sign, and that's something that is in 3 points. Like the first is when we have a manifest phenomena, it has to be not harmed by a valid direct perceiver and is established by it. So what does that mean? In our class, we had the example of a boat. And it's like a boat goes or travels further in a day on the ocean than on land in many days. So this is an example. For me, I take another example because the other one is more easier to just to grasp what is a manifest phenomenon. And for example, if you have a table in front of you, a flower, a tree, I don't know what. I take a tree because they're around my house so much. So I always consider and look at trees. So when you see it, when there is a tree, it is a manifest phenomenon because of my direct perception of my eye consciousness, I establish that this is a tree. I know that this is a tree. It's manifest, it can be seen, it can be also seen by others. So it is established by a valid direct perception. Then the second gets a little bit less obvious. It's about a hidden phenomenon, how we can get a correct sign of conviction through a hidden phenomenon. And this is it. A hidden phenomenon is not harmed by a valid inferential cognition, by the power of fact, and is established by it. Example here, impermanence, emptiness. I take the example of impermanence to just make it a little bit more clear. We can, a very coarse form of impermanence, we can actually quite easily establish by just, for example, when you look in the mirror in the morning, and we've seen after might be, sometimes, wow, oh, my hair has gotten more white, or I have gotten much more wrinkles. So we can see some kind of changing in our body, specifically when we're old. It gets more visible. And when we then reflect on this, how is this happening? Did it just happen puff once, like a one moment, and then I had these wrinkles? Or how is it happening then? And I think it's clear, we can see that, oh no, it's not happened in 10 years, like just, it's also not 5. Actually, it's 1 year, has to be actually happen even closer, 1 month, 1 week. Anyway, you come back to that, you can see, oh, if this course, this big change is happening, visible in 10 years, it has to start every moment. It has to be happening every moment. And was through the sense consciousness, we can perceive a manifest phenomena, but a hidden phenomena, we have to use mainly the mental, the conceptual consciousness. And then we can see, oh yeah, this must be a change on a very subtle level all the time that I usually don't see. That would be an example of a hidden phenomenon. And then the third one is a very hidden phenomenon. And this is then a correct sign of conviction when it is not harmed by a valid inferential cognition, by the power of conviction, and is established by it. For example, in this regard, it is if there's a teaching text in question, it should not be contradicted by other Buddhist scriptures. So in this way, it is so hidden that not even through my thinking I can get and grasp what is meant. And so I have to rely on valid sources. But these valid sources could be valid inferential cognition that are powered by conviction, that they can help me to then understand. And the example that I have here is, for example, that wealth arises from generosity. This is just beyond any of my abilities to see that this is true. But it is written in the scriptures and is completely not denied by any scripture that is not the case. So it is, we can take it as, for the moment, as granted, and then this would be then just more or less a belief at the moment, because I cannot see it directly at all at the moment. So these three different kinds of phenomena, and therefore there is how you say that? Anyway, just forgot the word. A conclusion, therefore, on the basis of such a threefold analysis, one can generate a valid inferential cognizer by the power of conviction. And this is what we need when we study, when we want to follow a path, not just any path, that we know it is a valid path. Okay, so there are probably no questions or comments.
No, everything is well explained. Nothing to say.
Oh, okay, some response. That is nice. Okay, good. Then I just go on with this chart, with this mind map, and also here the benefits that arise from these practices. That's very often it's mentioned. Just I think it is an inspiration for like, oh, when I do this practice, I do it well, I go on with it. There are these such and such benefits going to happen. So from these practices, and I will show them afterwards. We go now first the benefits, like the 6 perfections. When we practice them here, there are, for example, from generosity, there will be wealth. There is happiness coming from these practices. Good appearance, if we practice patience, There is brilliance in mind. There is peace in our heart. There is liberation possible. And all aims that we actually desire will be achieved. So I think that's really nice. I always liked it. Now, I mentioned already the 6 perfections before, and compassion. Very nice here, in a brief way, the 6 perfections are mentioned. And I like to go through them here as well. Let me see if I am correct in my doing. Yeah, looks like. Okay. First perfection here on the left is the perfection of giving. The definition is, giving is to give away completely all one's wealth, health, merits, and so on. And just always to remember in this context It is not that I will be able ever to finish all the poverty in the world, but it is all the six perfections are not about the outside so much, but are very, very much concerned with my own mind, with the attitude in my mind. How do I give? Do I make the motivation for with bodhicitta, with the mind generation for giving? Do I remember emptiness, for example? Do I dedicate afterwards? These three are so important to have a complete action. So it's all about my own mind and what I am thinking and what I'm generating at the moment of my action. Here, connected to giving are actually, but still also four things that are concerned with outside. Here there are like material things it's very good to give. It is protection from fear, to give dharma, and to give love. Then the second one is the perfection of ethics. The definition, ethics, is to help others and not to harm. And in this context, it is mainly refraining from bad conduct, also not harming not doing any harm to any other sentient being. Then secondly, collecting virtuous quality. And third, enacting the welfare of sentient beings as good as we can. Then the third one is patience. And the definition here, there are actually in all of them, there are also other definitions. But in this context, the definition is patience is to forsake anger. And it means whenever there is something happening from a sentient being, criticizing angry actions towards myself, having an undisturbed mind, facing the harm from others. That would be the first point. Accepting all the harm with an undisturbed, forsaken mind. The second point in here is definitely accepting suffering. So whatever suffering is happening in my life, not maybe harm caused by others, but just my own actions, my own life developing in getting me harm, that I accept this voluntarily. And then the last one, developing a certainty about the teachings. At the same time, also to investigate in Dharma teaching, in reflection, listening, reflecting, meditating, to deepen this, because this will strengthen our patience as well. Then we have choice effort. This is to delight in virtue. Here are also different kind of choice efforts mentioned, like armor-like choice effort, or the choice effort of gathering virtue, or choice effort of acting for the welfare of sentient beings. And shortly, just never to give up, to make anything possible, surely about my own capacities, not doing too much, not going in a helping trip, but just in a way I have the capacity to never to give up, to serve and be there for other sentient beings. Then we have the fifth one up here is concentration. It is an unafflicted one-pointedness. Sometimes also used the word meditative stabilization. And here there are different kinds mentioned. There's mundane concentration, supramundane. There is concentration towards, or the tending towards calm abiding. One is towards special insight, and then the one also tending towards a union of calm abiding and special insight. There's just many different types of concentration mentioned here. And then the sixth one is system, the definition is to ascertain the meaning of the truth. Here, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth, or the two truths. Usually we'll talk about the two truths, and then also about the Four Noble Truths. So the wisdom here is concerned mainly with the definitions here like this. Okay, and then is the last one here is a seventh, another seventh perfection, but it's mentioned as a 7-point. Compassion. It is a mind that savors only mercy and love for sentient beings. Okay, so I have to quickly check my watch because I wanted to make the alarm clock about after 30 minutes, but I forgot. So I have to make it now differently. So this is like a short, there will more coming about the 6 perfections you will see, but here it was just mentioned the way of practicing the path of this system in general. Okay. And there is just something short that I would like to mention, that the second point, as you remember in the outline, is the way here in green color of practicing on the level of common beings in particular. And here is mainly about that wrong assertions are dispelled and that the main point that are important are mentioned. It's about also the 3 practices of this context, like compassion, bodhicitta, emptiness, are said to be preliminary practices, also the 6 perfections, so, that are to be done before becoming a bodhisattva. They are also be practiced after having become a bodhisattva, meaning after having entered the path of accumulation. The way to practice is by cultivating a path that is the union of method and wisdom, and it is also important to correctly identify the measure of the object of negation that is refuted by the reasoning analyzing suchness. Here, just to remember, the object of negation is the grasping for true existence, for inherent existence. It has to be correctly identified. And, and then the 3 practices of this context, by great compassion, understanding of non-duality, and the mind of enlightenment, they are practices of both ordinary bodhisattvas and those who have not yet entered the Mahayana path. And also the 6 perfections, or the 6 bodhisattva deeds, are explained in this context of superiors. One should begin to practice them from the level of an ordinary bodhisattva, and even from the level of an ordinary being. So how I understand this is just an encouragement that even I, or people on the level that I am, can just start to do all these practices in a maybe very limited way, but we can just do them slowly, more and more, get experience. And also I think even if it's nothing big at all, we get some taste of how the effects, the result really are, like in the way that I mentioned it before on the last mind map, the benefits, that there is some connection with it really happening. So I think, again, this is very inspiring. Okay. Now, oops, yeah, this should not happen. Let me see if I can fix it. Yes, I can. Now we are already at the end of this session, and I would like to just remind us that whatever small merit we generated here through listening, sharing, reflecting on this topic, that we dedicate it for our own developing of great compassion and all the other qualities, with the wish for all sentient beings to be able to experiencing love and compassion and all the qualities, and that they are able eventually practice the graduated path themselves. And specifically again today, that all the warfare in the world may stop immediately. And reflect at the end also on these 3 verses. At the end, may the precious body mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In this land, encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Tenrisi Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. As long as space remains, and as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, thank you. And I'm actually already looking forward to the next session.